Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2024 World Chess Championship match between Ding Liren, the sitting world champion, and Gukesh D, the youngest ever challenger for the throne. And of course, Gukesh is from India. This is the first round recap, and it was an excellent first game to get started. I'm going to take you through all of the critical moments of the game, the emotions, and ultimately the result. And all of these recaps are brought to you by myself to let you know that Chessly 2.0 is on the way, my educational platform relaunching on December the 13th. December 1st is for VIP access, some beta testing, some early access folks to the site. If you ever got one of my courses, check your email. If you've never gotten one of my courses, go to Chessly right now. Make an account so we can let you know when the new platform drops. Because everybody that gets the new platform is going to get the launch price. I'm just letting you know. Now, enough yapping. It's time for chess. We're not going to talk about any of the pre-match predictions. We're just going to get right into the games. It's 14 games of action. The first one to 7.5 points wins. They play 120 minutes for the first 40 moves, and they don't get any bonus time until the 40th move, and more on that later. Gukesh opened up this match with the move pawn to e4. He plays this all the time. Ding responds with a major surprise. Not e5, which is the opening that he plays 99% of the time. Not the Sicilian, which if you're not going to play e5 at the highest level of the game, you probably should play a Sicilian. Shockingly, no Scandinavian defense, one of my favorites. The French with e6 and d5. Ding Liren has played the French in his illustrious career almost never since 2011. He played it once in the last World Championship match in the 7th game against Jan Nepomniachtchi, so I guess it's not a huge surprise, but it's an opening he's played about 2 to 3 times in about 10 years. So he plays the French defense. We have d4, d5, knight c3. This is called the classical. White here can also play the advance, white can play the exchange, white can play the tirage, white can play some sideline, and white doesn't even have to play d4. There are many other things you can play against the French, like b3, which is one of my favorite blitz weapons, but it's not something you're going to see at a world championship. Now, this is the classical, knight to f6. Another thing that Ding could have played here is bishop b4, the Wiener. Nobody really plays this anymore, as well as pawn takes e4, which leads to some lines of the Rubinstein French. But none of that matters. e5, black induces white into coming forward, charging with these pawns, and is going to rely on pawn breaks of c5 and f6 to muddy the waters and get the game back to equality. The first major surprise of this game comes on Gukesh's 6th move. Gukesh here does not play knight f3, knight c6, and bishop e3, which is the ultra-modern main line, has been played thousands and thousands and thousands of times. Instead, Gukesh slides backwards and plays knight ce2. And this is where things get really weird. So, the idea of this move, which could be played here as well, is to simply build up a center and make sure this pawn has access to c3. White wants to maintain a large center, and sometimes white even does this here, and then after c5, c3, knight c6, white plays knight f3. So white doesn't even play the move f4, okay? I wish the board changed color when I analyzed. But that only happens on the events page for some reason. But if you like that, I can bring that back. Otherwise, you're going to be confused what actually happened in the game. You're going to have to pay attention. Now, c5 is played. We have knight e2, and now knight c6. c3. And now, look at Ding's clock. a5 played in 27 minutes. At this moment of the game, Ding borderline had a breakdown. Like, I hate to say that, but I'm trying to even draw it in red. Yeah, I mean, he tried to play the a-pawn advance. That's fine. There are many things that black can do here. But he thought for 27 minutes. And I mean, people like, he looked distraught. I mean, his head is in his hands. What? Well, like, what's going on? I mean, it's the opening, but he plays a5. It's one of the moves. The point of a5 is you stop white from ever gaining space, and in fact, you would like to move your pawn to a4. You want to completely shut down the queen side. Totally reasonable. Gukesh plays knight f3 instantly because a5 is one of the moves. Ding plays a4. So he implements this plan. Gukesh very quickly, Gukesh hasn't thought. He spent a minute on 9 moves. I mean, so far, all momentum is pointing to the young Indian superstar. Bishop e7 from Ding played pretty quickly after 27 minutes spent on pushing the pawn. And now Gukesh plays what's called a novelty. In every single one of these games, we are going to have a moment that is called a novelty. A novelty is a brand new move. Sometimes novelties are good, sometimes novelties are bad. For example, this would also be a novelty, but it hangs the queen in one move. So novelties at the high level and novelties at the noob level are not quite the same. And Gukesh plays the move g4. Now he plays this move, as you can see, no bonus time, in 20 seconds, okay? A very provocative move. Immediately, my engine here, this computer, seems to think that it's not the best move. But obviously, if you give it more time, and I'm sure Gukesh prepared a lot before the match, it probably is one of the better moves of the position. I don't think I have to explain the ideas of this move to you, but I will. Maybe I do have to explain them. White is definitely weakening the structure of the king by pushing pawns in front of the king, but white wants to create chances of a kingside attack in the future. And also, white wants to finish the development this way, stabilize the center, and just go all in at a later point. Now, Ding here plays queen a5 after spending 14 more minutes. That is one of the other ideas of moving your a-pawn to a4, is that after you do that, the queen goes behind the a-pawn, and we see here the makings of counterplay by black. I mean, Ding has played great. He's just down 47 minutes. 47. I mean, all of this pre-match talk about Ding, his mental state, his confidence. Ding has not won a game in 304 days. Ding has like 3 wins this year, maybe 2, and one of them is against Gukesh in January, by the way, with the black pieces. I talked about this in my match video with information, where I also gave you the announcement I would be making recaps along with Magnus. That would be on the channel for the app that he's building. Or maybe he's not building it, but he's the leading spokesperson for it. Gukesh here plays bishop g2. Now, what's weird here, this is where it gets weird, okay? g4 is a provocative move. Black can castle, black can play b5, a3, f6. Queen a5 is not one of the top moves of the computer. But Gukesh he forgets the prep. Maybe he never looked at the move queen a5 because it's not one of the best moves. Now, when you go g4, you think with white, well, bishop g2 and castle, right? I mean, that's got to be the follow-up. The alternative is knight g3, which looks significantly worse because now black will play a3 and undermine the position. So you start thinking, well, what if white goes a3? I mean, to me, a3 is a very natural move. I don't know why Gukesh didn't play it. He spent 20 minutes, and I'm sure he will give some thoughts. Yeah, but he goes for, I guess, what he thinks is the follow-up to g4, which is bishop g2, but it allows Ding to target the base of the pawn chain. That is exactly what you should be doing. And now Ding has made some soft spots. He made some soft spots in the white position. The computer is not super fond of the way that Ding has played this, but everything looks pretty clear to me, and he takes on d4. Now, again, he's down 40 minutes on the clock, and when you take on d4, and white can't take with that because of the pin, and white can't take with the queen because you'd lose the queen, but this pawn is protected 5 times. But before taking back, Gukesh plays this very nifty move, pawn to b4. That's called a Zwischenzug, an in-between move. It's attacking the queen. The queen's got to move somewhere, and now knight e takes d4, and white is just better. I mean, Gukesh has emerged from the opening. He got what he wanted. He kind of maybe mixed up an idea. Ding looking to infiltrate on this weak square. Nobody for the white position is defending that square. Also, the c3 pawn could be a little bit weak. In the long run, this a2 pawn could be a liability for white. Anytime an opposing pawn like this marches down and freezes your pawn, modern day engines like Stockfish like to play like this because they sort of have a feeling this will be a weakness in the long run. We will see. Yeah, but it's not easy for black to move because he's so restricted by space. Now, Gukesh just castles, yeah? If Ding castles, Gukesh will play queen e2, He'll play king h1, and guess what's going to happen very shortly? Yeah, Gukesh is going to play h4, and we're going to see these 3 pawns in action. They're going to mobilize, they're going to get to this black king, they're going to weaken the position, and Gukesh is going to show why his preparation combined with his skill is on full display. Now, Ding, in the meantime, puts the horse right into Gukesh's mouth, targets the bishop on e3, Gukesh simply sliding back, and Ding also developing. You'll notice Ding hasn't committed his king. The king is just a chill guy who just wants to stay in the middle for a little bit and hang out with his buddies. All right? By the way, Gukesh thus far playing perfectly. Queen to e2. However, and Magnus Carlsen himself said this before the match, the time management for both of these guys is suspect. Ding has just been out of form, but Gukesh apparently is always a slow thinker. Or maybe he's not a slow thinker, he's a slow decision maker. Gukesh is a perfectionist. Queen e2, according to the engine, is the best move. It is a flexible move. You get the queen off the home rank. You defend this pawn in the future. You target the knight. You support this and maybe f5. You want to put a rook somewhere in the middle. It is the best move. But he spends 33 minutes to play it. And suddenly the time disadvantage for Ding is really not that major. But keep something in mind, folks. This is the 17th move. And if you'd like, I'll put a move counter on the screen. They both have to make 23 more moves, and they get no bonus time until the 41st move. That's the time control. It's like the Hunger Games out here. Time is just ticking down. Ding now captures on d4. He does this because he opens up his queen, he opens up his bishop. It's just a good move. That knight is worth trading. Now Gukesh should take back with the bishop or the knight. He chooses to take with the knight, and Ding quickly blitzes out knight to b2. Now, Ding up to this point has spent 90 of his minutes to play 17 moves. 90 of his minutes, they start the game with 120, 90 of them to play 17 moves. But from this point forward, something changes completely. At this point, Ding overcomes all of the adversity. And I mean, I hate to say it, but it's like an anime. It's like a movie moment. I mean, the man wakes up. He takes on d4. Knight takes d4, and he drives the knight to the b2 square, supported by this pawn, hitting c3, opening up ideas. Gukesh plays queen e3, and the time advantage is down to about 3 minutes and 50 seconds from 47 minutes. Momentum completely shifted. Ding, rook c8. Look at this. Noobs are taught. I'm not insulting you by calling you noobs. You really should castle your king. You also shouldn't push so many pawns in front of your king. These guys have learned the rules. It's now time to break them. All right? Rook c8. Black is still not castling. And Gukesh plays rook c1. That is the wrong rook. But I gotta tell you, the alternatives were not too nice. You have to keep this pawn protected. Otherwise, the queen comes in and attacks it. But rook c1 is depressing. Why would you subject 2 of these rooks to a position like this? And also depressing is bishop e1. And the craziest thing about this position is, despite black sitting there, waiting to be attacked, waiting for white to make all the necessary preparations to start something, h5 is the antidote. That is why you need to keep the king in the center, so the rook can strike and maybe even activate. And guess what? If white locks the position, you are never breaking through f5. Remember a few years ago, the Suez Canal? Suez? I don't know how to pronounce it, all right? I'm American. I can barely pronounce my own country's name properly, all right? Back in remember that traffic jam that was there and no ships could get through? Yeah, that's this, all right? Gonna be an international shipping crisis if this happens. So, Gukesh plays rook c1. Ding, immediately, queen c4. Who's gonna protect the pawn on a2? I got news for you. Nobody! f5! You can't take the pawn on a2. It looks nice, but I get counterplay way too quickly, and the pawn on a3 hangs, and I've got an attack here. f5 is on the board. Meanwhile, Ding gets into the position. Look at Ding's time. Look at Ding's time. 35, 34, 33, 32, 52, 32, 02. He's playing confidently. Ding knows, like a surgeon, he has to cut off the head of the snake. Without the queen, the white pieces are in disarray. They are without their leader. The queen needs to lead the attack. And f5 was ill-advised because of this move. But this was an ill-advised move. The next move Gukesh makes is even more ill-advised. He knows that if he plays queen f4, G5 is going to happen. He can take on passant. But queen G6 comes in, and it's only black who is starting an attack, and the knight is coming to D3. Gukesh wants to avoid a queen trade, but he avoids a queen trade and pays with it, pays for it, I should say, with a major disadvantage, and Ding doesn't even hesitate and plays bishop to G5. Gukesh is battered. Gukesh is on the ropes. This is unbelievable. Ding has outplayed him like a technician. I mean, this is 2018 Ding Liren. 20 moves played in a French defense, and he is better. Complete shift of momentum, unfathomable. I mean, you chalk it up to nerves, you chalk it up to the heat of the moment with the world watching, or you just chalk it up to the fact that Ding Liren is back. Bishop to G5 is played. Rook C2 played. Now you can castle. Or how about Rook C4? This is a move that Garry Kasparov would make back in the day. He would move his rook and screw it into the square. That's what he would do. And that's when you knew you were in trouble. Every piece is maximized. The bishop is coming in as well. Rook takes D4, removes the defender of the C2 rook. Gukesh fighting back. 16 minutes on the clock remaining for Gukesh to make 16 moves, or he loses the first game of the World Chess Championship on time. Ding, unflapped. 4 seconds spent. Look at this. The bishop is behind the pawns. The bishop has snuck in behind the pawns. And I don't know, maybe Gukesh in the next games is going to have to be very careful moving so many pawns, because now look what happens. Weaknesses are created. Gukesh playing the best move, queen b1, defending the pawn, defending the rook from the defense of rook takes d4. But the problem is, when the queen left, the queen used to protect the pawn on c3. It's a necessary sacrifice, rook c3, and folks, now it is time for the craziest portion of this game. Ding has had multiple decisive advantages this year. He had a very good position against Gukesh the last time they played in the Singfield Cup in 2024 in St. Louis, but he didn't win that game. Gukesh has had 5 to 6 winning positions in the last 3 to 6 months. He hasn't won a single one of those games. He hasn't won a game in 300 days. 300 days he hasn't won a game. So rook c3 played, rook c3, queen c3. Pawn takes e6. At this point, the engine was screaming for bishop takes. Bishop takes is not a very human move. It opens up this diagonal. White's next move is dropping back the knight. And yes, white is down a pawn, and very quickly might be down 2 pawns. But this position is not easy. Black's king gets stuck in the center of the board. Black's king is going to get stuck in the center, and that doesn't feel particularly comfortable. The players don't have this thing. White is going to have to create counterplay going for the strong pawn that holds in the knight. That is one of the choices. But Ding takes with the pawn. And if you let the engine run here, the advantage is nearly gone. Nearly gone. Black is going to try to castle. He tried to preserve his center, keep the bishop, on this diagonal, and keep the center intact. But this was the wrong move, and you couldn't have scripted this. Magnus Carlsen himself not only said that these guys are going to manage their time poorly, he said Ding is going to get the first big chance. He literally said that. We did a video on it. He said Ding is going to get the first big chance. And now, Gukesh fighting back, forking the queen, giving up another center pawn. But this position, despite being up 2 pawns, is not over. White has bishop c5, and this move leaves the king in the center of the board for good. The crazy part is Ding is now up 3 pawns if this happens. But you can play queen c2, queen f2, as well as rook f3, rook a3, rook a8. Crazy stuff. Big moment here for Gukesh. 10 minutes on the clock, 11 minutes to make 40 moves. He loses on time if he doesn't do it. He has bishop c5 on the board with the ideas of queen c2, rook f3. Does he go here? Does he go queen e1? Does he go bishop c5? And here, Gukesh plays queen c2. I get it. He has ideas. He wants something like this. But queen c2 is a massive mistake because it allows queen c4. And if Gukesh had started with bishop c5, queen g4, queen c2, queen c4, the queen would go to f2, where it would violently enter the black position, kick over everything, smash all the windows, and take whatever it needed, and it would have left and sent the message. The problem is, because you never move the bishop from the f2 square, you are locked out. But Gukesh is going for a different bit of counterplay. He's going for queen d2, castling the king, bishop d4, and an attack on the pawn on g7. The problem is, it doesn't work. But does Ding know it doesn't work? In this position, Gukesh plays queen d2. But perhaps, look at the time. Gukesh here spent a little too much time. When you do this, it sends a message to the opponent like, hey, something's up. And now, castling on move 31, just like we teach the beginners, bishop to d4. There's pressure here. If black plays e5, he loses in spectacular fashion, courtesy of Daniel Naroditsky, who saw this on the stream. Bishop takes d5, queen d5, rook f8, and bishop c5 is a discovered attack on the queen. It's not over. But Ding brings back his hero horse, knight to d3. That knight traveled the world, d7, b6, c4, b2, and now in disconnecting these two pieces, Gukesh is on the ropes. Queen e3, Ding removes his rook. Bishop takes f1, the knight is pinned though, and the queen is there. What do you play here? The only move, e5. Played in 2 seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, Ding Liren is back. If you take this knight, it doesn't matter what you take it with. I trade the queens. Your pawn is hanging. You can go to protected. I play anything. King f7. You can't take, you get your bishop trapped, and Ding is up 2 pawns in an endgame. This is over. e5 is on the board. Gukesh plays bishop e5. Ding now gets the other pawns. Those pawns that he pushed a little bit too far. And let's not forget, there is still the pawn on a2. If the pawn on a2 falls, the game is over. Gukesh plays bishop to g2. Now Ding, best move on the board, bishop f5. Light squared defense. Bishop e4 coming in. White never has any time. Never has any time to get the counterplay going. Bishop back to g3, bishop e4, king h2. Gukesh has 20 seconds. You are reading that right. 20 seconds to make 2 moves. It's move 38. Gukesh is on the ropes, h6. Ding looking for a knockout punch, but sometimes you can take a deep breath. h6 simply protecting the king. Bishop h3 played with 4 seconds to go. But now queen d1. Mate is threatened. Gukesh has 4 seconds or he loses the game on time, and he plays a move and slaps the clock with 1 second remaining. Mate has been avoided. But what has not been avoided is losing the pawn on a2. The move that that Ding spent 20-something minutes playing, maybe remembering his prep, maybe adjusting to the moment, who knows, and then a4, and later a3. Folks, 28 moves later, the queen has arrived to collect the bounty. King g3, queen a2. It's over. If Ding plays 2 more moves, he's going to promote this pawn. His king is going to be safe. Gukesh thinks for a little while, adjusts himself emotionally, gives a check. If Ding goes king h7, he blunders queen e4, takes, and bishop a2, which is really convenient because he goes king h8. And Gukesh resigns, and Ding wins the first game of the 2024 World Chess Championship match. Now, he has won 3 games against Gukesh with black. Gukesh has never beaten Ding in a classical chess game. He beat him in freestyle chess. That doesn't count because nothing beats this. This is the gold standard ultimately. And right now, Gukesh is in trouble because Ding has won game 1 and he's done it with the black pieces. It was a nervy game. It was a strange game. There were plot twists left and right. But old Ding Liren reappeared. And my God, was he a monster. My God, was he a monster. And Gukesh is going to have to will himself back into this match. His experience will be tested. 18 years of age on the biggest stage with everybody watching. It's 1-0 Ding Liren. I can't believe it. What a spectacle. Just sensational stuff. Folks, I'm going to leave you by signing off with the usual. Go check out the GothamChess chessboard at your local Walmart or on walmart.com, link in the description. And those of you who are ready for the new launch of my educational platform, December 13th, it's on the way. Unless you're on the VIP list, then you get access on December the 1st. Get out of here. See you for game number 2.